Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us here today at Warhammer. We have an extra special guest, Mike McConkey, joining us all the way from North Ireland. Mike, my friend, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing very well. Doing very well. It's 9 p.m. Kids are in bed and ready to talk some Warhammer. Yeah, good
Congrats.
times.
Absolutely. Well, I gotta say, Mike, big fan of yours. I saw that Word Bearers list, which you managed to win a GT with last weekend. I immediately knew we were going to hit it off. I knew I was going to like you because that was just such a fun list, such a fun play style. And I know there's probably a lot of fans out there really interested to hear how you made that amazing list work. Before we kind of dive into the details of that, can you tell me a bit about your 40K background? Because I know you come from a pretty decorated 40K background.
Yeah, I think probably decorated in terms of what Northern Ireland has. We're a small country. Don't get me wrong, so we're not setting the world ablaze or anything. But yeah, I started playing in second edition actually. But I say playing, I was like 7, 8 years old. So playing as much as you could at seven
Probably
years old.
just pushing the toy soldiers around.
That was literally it. Me and my friends just like covering it in thick layers of paint and then chucking them on the table. But yeah, started
I'm still
collecting
pretty
in
close to that
second.
stage over here, so there's no judgment at all.
So yeah, started collecting then. It was second edition, so it was just usual. Everyone played Ultramarines with yellow shoulder pads. So back then, Goblin green bases. So yeah, started then. Fell in love with Eldar. To be honest, they were my first army. Picked
Oh,
them up
very
second
cool.
edition. Played them through third edition, and then kind of just dropped out for a little while. Kind of kept my eye, got White Dwarf every month, kept an eye on what was going on, but didn't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
play or collect. And then probably I was just finishing uni, so it was about 2021, and found just came across like a gaming club that was running a tournament, fairly local to me, probably about 20 minutes away from me. So I thought, hey,
Okay.
I'll go to this tournament. I thought I had a really good Eldar army,
Yeah, yeah.
turned up, got absolutely smashed across all
Oh
three games because
no.
turns out me and my friends, the way we played 40k was not the way to play 40k. So I end up, I think I
Happens
played
to the best of
three.
us.
Yeah, I think I played three of the Irish ETC team. Before I didn't know anything about ETC, knew nothing about the international
Sure,
stage.
sure.
So yeah, I just got the bug from then. So I've pretty much been playing non-stop really since fifth edition, picking up various different armies. My Eldar weren't cutting it in fifth edition, so I pivoted to
Sure.
do Nids. I played Nids for quite a while. Unfortunately, they weren't great either, but I enjoyed playing them. And then Chaos Demons, I started playing.
Okay.
Probably near the tail end of fifth, start of sixth, and at that point, I started getting involved in Team Northern Ireland. Then going
Okay.
actually went to my first ETC in 2013 in Serbia, and
Oh,
was like
fantastic.
the Chaos Demons player for the team there, and really enjoyed it. It was like 60 flesh hounds just running across the board at people. It was a fun
Brilliant.
list. So, and yeah, just been playing ever since. I've picked up. I've tried my hand at everything which isn't Imperium. Really, I just have no interest in playing Imperial armies.
Mike, I can
I'm
definitely relate. I definitely respect that. So I'm curious. So over ninth edition, um, has it only been Chaos Space Marines, or have you been mixing it up, trying different
You
things?
know, I have to say, Chaos Space Marines is a very late addition to what I played. I started
Okay.
off playing Harlequins that started playing Harlequins in seventh edition because
Sure.
they were terrible, and I was like, I'm making these things work, and I loved them. So it
Major
turned out in
respect.
ninth they were
Yeah.
really good. They were, so
Very
yeah,
true.
I won a couple of tournaments locally with Harlequins. Death Guard Codex came out. I had a Death Guard army from again probably sixth or seventh edition.
Sure,
Did
sure.
well enough with them. So it was Death Guard, and then at Nids, I've pretty much just been playing Nids solidly for the last
Okay.
probably I say 3 years. COVID makes time a little bit
I know,
wibbly
right?
wobbly.
It's been a weird few years.
It has. So I played Nids. Took Nids to WTC there in Belgium over the summer for Team Northern Ireland, and came home and I was like, I literally had never touched Chaos Space Marines, hadn't looked at the codex because it wasn't viable, it wasn't legal for WTC.
Yeah,
We'd
yeah.
made the call too close to the
Yeah, I
cutoff.
remember the
Just
timing being
absolute.
weird. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was. So there was no Chaos Space Marines, and I was like crap, there's a whole army here that I know nothing about. Picked up the codex in probably September, October time, and was just like, well, I'm starting a Chaos Space Marine army now. So yeah, I've been sort of piecing it together a little bit over probably sort of November,
Yeah.
December time. I got most of it, put it all together. So I played one game with it as Emperor's Children,
Yeah.
which was great. This was kind of pre nerf, still Nephilim. They were amazing, and yeah, so I picked them up. I didn't know what to do with the data slate coming because I was trying to get a list together during
Yeah.
January, not knowing what Chaos Space Marines are going to do. So I actually, right up until about 2 hours before I put my list in, it was going to be a Black Legion list.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought Abaddon or Abaddon, whatever, I can't remember the official pronunciation. He's a bad one. Him, the Terminator. I knew I wanted to run the Terminators. And I was
Sure,
thinking,
sure.
yeah, Veilbreaker plates, Sorcerer, teleporting Termies with
Yeah,
full
it's a
rerolls to
very
hit and wounds across the
really great
table. Sounds really
combo.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I just happened to be flicking through the Astra Militarum book and saw the Finial and was like, Abaddon's not going to survive long. so, so,
Yeah.
yeah, as I say, about literally like 2 hours before I submitted my list, I was like, what Legion am I going to take here? Because
Yeah.
yeah, Black Legion were cool and all, but by the time you take Abaddon and you take the Dark Apostle and you take a Master of Possessions, you're like, I've only one HQ left, and I really wanted the Lord Discordant because I love the model.
Yeah.
Absolutely adore that model, but I also want the Demon Prince. I was like, ah, crap.
Stuff.
I've
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
one HQ. Yeah. So I don't know. I started playing in Battle Scribe and thought, right, I'll try Word Bearers. Because I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, these guys, reroll the hits is fantastic
Yeah.
army wide, first and foremost,
Amazing
especially
Legion
Parfist
fleet.
Terminators. Absolutely need it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hold on, these guys also get a 5+ mortal wound save.
Yeah. Just
And I
army
was like,
wide. It's
yeah. And I was
that's
kind of like, hold on,
something.
these are two amazing things together and
Yeah.
army wide. Why was I not looking at word bearers before? And then just as I built the list, I was kind of like, hold on, I can cast two prayers from my Dark Apostle.
Oh,
This
it's
is
so
freaking
much fun.
amazing.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yeah.
the list kind of just developed from there. So I got to the point where I kind of knew what I could because I had nothing painted. This was 10 days before the tournament. I had nothing painted. Everything was built, but I had to
Okay.
paint the whole thing.
We can all relate to that.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, right, I can't run full Chaos Space Marine list because I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
knew I wouldn't get it painted in time. And I was like, well, I have a demons, so let me see what I can do with the demons. So the demons patrol kind of got tacked on, and I just literally for 2 hours straight was just like playing back and forward of what I could do best in the
Yeah.
list. So yeah, that's the story of the list as it really came through. So yeah, it changed wildly in the last two
That's really
hours.
funny, Mike. I'm gonna be honest. I was looking at the list. I was like, wow, it feels like it's like so well put together, and he must have like practiced it, like tested all these different iterations. And you're like, oh, I was just looking at my models 2 hours before, and we just kind of threw something together, flipping through the word
Well,
bearers.
don't get me wrong. It
Yeah.
wasn't to say thrown together. I did a lot of
Oh, of course, of course.
a lot of googling, a lot of flicking
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
different Discord servers I'm on just to try and piece together what was. I knew the Termi block. The Termi block was just it was. I had to
Yeah.
run it. Don't care. Armor of Contempt's gone. It's kind of like there still seems so good to me
Yeah.
in theory. I know that there's a lot of people who are kind of like no, they're dead now because of Armor of Contempt
I
going, and I'm
think
kind of
those
going.
people are just dead wrong. Just dead
Yeah,
wrong.
I agree. I agree. And I was like, they also have a 5+ Phenopain against mortals, which is the way you kill Terminators and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I think these guys can work. So I knew the Termi block, and it was all just like, how do I build the list around the Termi block? The Possessed being really good for word bearers is happy accident because I think they're just a phenomenal unit,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal unit. And I think if when I'm adjusting the list now, I'm playing around with it. More Possessed is the first thing that's going into it. Just
Well,
so
that's going to
good.
make every word bearer's heart very happy because they love their possession, they love their demon. Cool. Let's
They do.
actually, for those who haven't seen the list yet, let's kind of run through it. Let's see
Yep.
if I've got it pulled up. I'm actually going to normally start with the HQs. I think this list is really interesting because you have basically started with the other stuff and then the HQs support that. So let's actually start going by the troops and going by everything else. Then we'll kind of circle back to the HQs. If that works for you, Mike.
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. Let's see here. So I think for troops, you kept it really cheap. I think you just had 10 cultists, right? Nothing fancy going on there. Was it just points, or
Nothing.
do you just like cultists?
They at various points in the list they were accursed cultists. I think they started out as accursed cultists, and I just fell short of points and had to trim them back to being
Yeah.
normal cultists. Yeah, I need something that can stand at the back of the board and do actions because it was kind of a happy accident when I looked at it because I was going, hold on, accursed cultist would have been a bad choice then
Yeah.
because then I would have had a venom crawler probably standing at the back doing actions or something like that. Because my other sort of chaff units are blue horrors who can't do actions and spawn who
Yeah.
can't do actions.
Yeah.
So happy accident. They were very good at. Listen, the worry was Imperial Guard mortar teams just lifting the whole squad the minute they looked at them, and without spoiling the games ahead, they did play against Astra Militarum with 9 mortars, and no one looked at the cultists. The cultists literally, I don't think they took a casualty the whole tournament.
Wow.
Because they just stood at the back on my home objective, doing actions, spreading out exactly 2 inches away, and then having
Yeah,
little
yeah.
triangles at the end just to cover my backfield. That
Yeah.
was their job.
And
So, and the
who
blue
would have
horrors, to be
guessed?
fair, did the same. So,
Yeah. Who would have guessed Word Bearer's Cultist is one of the safest jobs in the galaxy? That's cool to hear. Cool. And then moving over to the elite slot, you've got, the aforementioned Terminators, which of course you have the Black Ruin of auto take on them, because why wouldn't you? What are we even talking
yeah,
about over here? Um, you gave them a pretty expensive loadout. They come in at 420 because you paid for some upgrades on them. Kind of talk to
yeah,
me
it
about
did.
those. What was your thinking there?
Um, yeah, when they were Emperor's Children, when they only the test game I had them as Emperor's Children, and I was like, Terminators really need power fists to do any sort of damage.
Sure, sure.
I'm looking at accursed weapons and thinking these are really great, high AP, extra attack, and 1 damage, and it just doesn't feel like it's enough.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I think I went with the Terminators over Chosen. I like Chosen on paper. Mark of Corn Chosen, especially on paper, look really exciting, but I don't know. There's so much stuff out there which damage 1 weapons takes so long. It just nullifies, just degrades your attacks so quickly. So
Yeah,
I had to have the damage output. So I was kind of like, no, if I'm going to take Termies, I'm going to take Termies, and that's going to be full power fists, double chain fist. Didn't worry about any combi weapons
sure,
because
sure.
the big problem my list probably had is just clearing chaff. I know flamers are there, but flamers do a different job. They're not out really to shoot. If I'm honest, the termies have to be able to clear the chaff for the possessed to get
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
So I just stuck with combi bolters for them. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, throwing 40 dice downfield is never a bad thing.
feels amazing.
Yeah. Especially plus to hit. They can reroll ones from HQs. They can get explosions the first 2 turns. Really nice.
Explosions first two
Yeah.
turns, and the word bearer strat, which looks great on paper. I never used it once. The
Yeah,
explosion
yeah.
fours if they're on the objective, but it just never gets 2 CP.
It's just not
If
a
it was
thing.
1 CP, it would be
Yes.
great. 2 CPs just and I have no CP in this list to really start with, so
Yeah.
couldn't afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. The word bearer's curse is definitely CP. Plus, did you ever find yourself using Demon Shell now that Armor of Contempt's not
Yes,
a thing anymore?
I used it in the Astra Militarum matchup, definitely against Kasserkin and Sion standing in
Yes.
cover. I was just like 1 CP to kill another one in 6 guys. It just made sense to me. Didn't need
Yeah.
it for the extra range or anything like that because the termies were always midfield, pretty much in their face. But the extra AP in your head, you're like, it's only 1 AP, but certain units they really rely on like a
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
plus save, and you tip them to a 5 plus, and all of a sudden it can get a bit swingy with the dice. So yeah, I used it, probably used it a number of games. Power armored guys as well, and any power armor at all, you just want to chip
Yeah.
that save
Especially
down as
if you
best
catch
you
them out of
can.
cover, that AP1
Yeah,
volume really hurts them these days.
yeah,
Okay. Another interesting choice you made was, so after the Terminators, you had another elite. You had the Master of Executions, which everyone runs these upgrades. They run demon weapons. They run marks on them. They run traits, whatever. You just have a stock data sheet, 65 points, 0 CP. Talk to me about how like you envisioned him in the list and how he performed for you in game.
He was MVP in probably 3 of my games, 3 of the 5 games.
Really?
Yeah, he. Don't get me wrong. The word bearers Legion trait just helps so much because you can
Oh,
just
so
reroll
good for
hits.
him. Yeah, yeah.
It's that's why people buy the mantle for him, which makes sense. You
Mhm.
want to be rerolling those hits. You want to be fishing for sixes. Word bearers can just do that normally. It's fine.
Yeah,
Again, for most of the list iteration, he had a mark of corn on him to try and get to that strength 8. I was
yeah,
really
yeah.
trying to get the strength 8 as best I could. Unfortunately, just again points he got shaved off. Don't think it mattered at any point, to be honest, because I was just fishing for sixes. That's
Sure,
all I was
sure.
doing. So
Those
um,
mortals really add up.
yeah, and then like CP wise, my HQs just sucked all the CP into them, so I had nothing else to give him really.
Okay.
So, to be honest, I love the model, I love the concept of him, and I was like, for 65 points, he seems an absolute steal for everything he does.
Yeah, especially with the
And
6 inch
then
heroic, that really kind of dominates
yes,
some areas of the board.
yeah, it's the Terminator's game plan was always go and stand. The tournament was WTC format and table 6, so there's always L-shaped ruins around the middle of the board.
Okay.
So the Termies would walk through the wall and stand on the
Yeah.
objective, and he would just sit at the corner of the ruin, just patiently waiting for someone to
Yeah.
come within 6 inches.
Yeah. He's like,
And
please, please come
yeah,
close. I want to say hi.
every time. And I would tell people at the start of the game, yeah, he heroic 6 inches, and they go, yeah, cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool. And then they would move their models within 6 inches of him, and I would just, you're like, right, well, I told them, so
Yeah.
I've done my bit. So he
Yeah.
was an absolute hero. He took 10 wounds off Be'lakor in one round of combat.
10 wounds. Wow.
10 wounds.
Yeah.
I don't need to re-roll hits. Just roll 3 6s. That's
There we go.
that's the tip. So it is. So it was a Hail Mary, and it kind of worked. And I was like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take that. Thanks. So
Yeah.
yeah, he was brilliant. And for the guys who in their heads are trying to calculate their charges, because obviously guys are Terminators are in a bit of a box almost around the
Yeah.
characters. And they're trying to work out how to tag both ends of that to try and nullify the attacks back. And he's just
Yeah.
standing in the middle, just going, I will go either way. I can
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
through this wall. I can move. I always obviously left enough space for his base to get
Of
through.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a good deterrent for 65 points.
Yeah.
I
So
think he's fantastic.
yeah. So for anyone unfamiliar, and of course you know this, Mike, I'm just explaining to other people.
Yep.
One of the great tricks of Master Executions is because his base is less than 2 inches wide. Coherency is 2 inches. So as long as you pre-plan, he can always kind of fit through gaps in units to go ahead and just punch people that try to punch that unit. A really great synergy with a great brick. So I'd love to hear how you used him. Did you ever use the 4-up stand back up stratagem on him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost every game, because
Okay, well,
he was
next question.
he was
Did
a
you
bit of
actually
a
roll 4-ups on it? Because that's the part I'm still working on.
he failed. So first game he failed it. Second game he failed it.
No.
But yeah, he failed. He passed it in my last three. So he did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He stood back up against the Astra Militarum at the end of their shooting phase with 3 wounds, and my opponent was just he was totally shook. And then I was like, oh, by the way, this is your charge phase, isn't it? Heroic 6 inches into your lines, tag 2 units.
Oh, it's such a great combo there. Yeah, that's fair. Well, sticking to the elite slot, and we're moving now down to 2 units of 5 possessed, which I think you've already explained. I think every Wordbearer fan wants to hear a little bit more about how you use these possessed and how they perform for you in game.
Yeah, well, listen, one caveat to this. Unfortunately, my list is illegal because Chaos Icons are not free, despite what Battlescribe told me. So it didn't come up in any game, thankfully, because my possessed were never in the middle of the board. Just like they have no reason to be in the middle of the board when they have Terminator standing there. So they pretty much always lined up on either flank. And turn 1, it was literally go and touch an objective, stand behind a ruin, stand on that objective.
Sure.
And get me hit. Effectively, that's what they did. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and the great news is it was only 10 points. You get freed up, dropped a couple of power fists, dropped a mark somewhere. There's ways to make it work. Yeah. That's really good to hear that it didn't affect the games at all. So it sounds like basically use them as kind of like flankers and skirmishers and just early objective grabbers, which makes sense. I mean, the 9-inch move is amazing on them. Like the T5 is great, the 3 wounds is great, but that 9-inch move, that's really the secret sauce with them. Love those units so much. Okay, let's talk about in the fast attack slot. You have 2 kind of staples of Chaos Space Marine lists. You've got the single solo spawn, which how valuable do you think that solo spawn is? I never leave home without that 125 point unit, but I see some people dropping him from the lists. What's kind of your thinking there, Mike?
I would take him over any upgrade, and I did. I took him over giving a mark to the Master of Executions. I took him over buying combi weapons for the Terminators. He was unbelievably good, and the best thing he does is he just goes, where is the objective I don't want to put a possessed squad on because they're going to get removed next turn? Okay, solo spawn, you're there. 7 inches is a pretty good move, to be fair to him. So he just
especially things reachable. Yeah.
Exactly. He's just great, and it's that psychological thing of your opponent's like, oh, if you put small arms fire to him and you don't kill him, you've just wasted your shots because he goes back to full ones again.
Yeah, no, the regen roll is super cool.
I don't think he died at all over the entire tournament.
Yes,
there we go. Stood in corners.
You love to see it.
Just stood in corners.
Yeah, this is kind of weird. I think Chaos Spawn are actually kind of wildly good, both as like solos, but also like 3 to 5 mans. I've been experimenting in Wordbearer's list. I never have enough points for it. Both the full hit rerolls, hidden on 4s, they love the hit rerolls. They still get the exploding 6s turn 3.
Yes.
Look at the mortal wound shrug. I don't know. That's the list I'm playing around with.
I would I would love to run that. And it's the fact that Spawn get full Legion traits. It didn't twig with me until I actually was playing
Yeah.
with them. I was like, hold on, I get rerolls here. What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. And especially with their cheap points and the Mortal Wound Shrug, they're probably the single best like smite screens in the game and stuff. So love those little spawn.
Yeah,
Um,
they are indeed. Yeah.
yeah. Moving to the other fast attack slot, we have a little Venom Crawler in there. Um, Pretty self-explanatory, actually. I think it's a fantastic unit. It gets the Legion trait, the rerolls to hit. Um, how big was that aura of +1 to cast for you? Like, was he more there for the bonus to cast, or more there for like damage and durability himself?
He was more there to walk up the board in front of the Lord Discordant and take the damage for him. To be
Fair.
honest, he was
Yeah.
he was rarely like my casters were all in behind the Terminators, and the Venom Crawler and the Lord Discordant were away YOLOing down a flank somewhere, trying to just
Yeah.
cause some mayhem. So yeah, he was never near. He was brilliant,
That's fair.
including one turn where he took 8 wounds off a Nemesis Dread Knight Grandmaster
Ooh, there we
in
go. Way to
combat.
go. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, the dice were with me that day.
You love to see it. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Let's kind of jump back to that HQ slot in the word bearers list because we have 4 HQs there. And now that we understand the structure of the list, I think people can kind of see how they synergize in. I'll kind of just go down the list, starting with your Demon Prince. Where, so for those watching at home, he had a Nurgle Demon Prince with wings, of course, and the Nurgle Demon weapon for 1 CP, which basically the rules for that are every time it hits, it just auto wounds and they can't ignore damage. Kind of talk to me about how you use that Demon Prince.
He was effectively just my counter charger. So he just sat in behind the Terminators, waited till someone got too close, and then at them.
Yeah,
And again, it was one of those where, yeah, okay, you most people chose assassinate against me, but I wasn't afraid to just chuck him into their army and go, if you don't deal with this guy, he will do some significant damage,
yeah,
and you have to deal with him. And I very rarely cast prescience with him. I took it just to buff the Terminators to get me to sort of threes to hit in combat with the rerolls.
sure,
Never
sure.
cast it. It was nearly always putrid miasma, because he was getting chucked out to do some damage. So
Oh, that's
his
amazing.
best kills were two armigers in one combat phase was his best
There we
kills.
go. There we go. No, that's amazing. I love to hear that you use him aggressively because one of the things that has annoyed me about this Codex Ninth Edition is that like Demon Princes, like in the lore, they're meant to be like leading in the front and like soloing entire armies, whereas in most lists they're basically just like hiding, like taking lookouts, or just like casting Warp Ritual or like providing buffs. So I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
that yours kind of gets in the mix. I do like that in Word Bearers. The Mortal Wound Shrug is fantastic because that's a great way to kill him normally. But also you can zero out damage for a CP. Did you ever find yourself using that on him?
Every time, yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Yes, between him and the Lord Discordant, they pretty much used my two every single game. So yeah.
Yeah. No, such a great stratagem. Okay, so moving down to the Dark Apostle. Again, for those watching at home, he has the Mark of Slaanesh. He has the Pistol of Lorgar. Mike, can you describe to us what that does and kind of your choices on the 2 prayers you took on him?
Yeah, so Pistol of Lorgar is the you can do 2 prayers
Sure.
effectively. So it was the same as CP. I could have done I'm trying to remember the name of the stratagem. There's a stratagem that lets you do a prayer in another phase that you haven't already done, but I just didn't have the CP to do all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Yeah,
Was
I
it
think it's
Fell
called
prayers or
Bell
something like
Prayers.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we're
something like
close
that.
enough. We're in the ballpark at least.
Yeah. So yeah, he was there literally sort of turn one, turn two. It was always going to be illusionary
Okay.
supplication and either illusionary supplication and rerolls the wounds in his little aura,
Sure,
whatever
sure.
that prayer was called. Just did those two, and then it was that choice of really probably from turn three, turn four. At what stage do I go illusionary supplication, blissful devotions? Is it called the advance in
Yeah.
charge
Blissful
prayer?
Devotion.
Yeah, and just send the armies because they've done their job. The characters have been protected. I've got my
Yeah.
Exalt the Dark Gods tally up. I've got my Warp Ritual tally up. Now's the time for the armies to go push the poo in, as we say, over here, and just
Love it.
go and do what we can. So yeah, he pretty much that was his job. His job was literally illusionary supplication plus one other, and then it was that choice of right now is the time for advance and charge. Let's go, guys, because termies are
Yeah.
painfully slow, so you need that to get them across the board.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of the best parts of Word Bearers is the possible being able to double pray. Because normally you have to choose. Do you want the durability of illusory supplication, which is just amazing, or do you want the advance of charge, which is amazing on 5-inch moving dudes? So being able to do both at the same time with one guy, I mean, that's just worth its absolute weight in gold.
Yes, the
Um,
one regret I did have was not taking, is it Apostle of the Dark Council, something like that? It lets you re-roll the
Reroll the
prayer
one.
dice.
I was about to ask what happens when you roll that one because it happens and it's always the worst freaking time for it to
Oh,
happen.
Mike, don't see the Imperial Knights matchup. I failed
Yeah,
5 prayers in a row. Just
Mike,
3 turns of
no,
just
no, no,
one,
no. Tell
one,
me that's
one,
not true.
one, one, one.
No,
And I was
no,
like, what what is going on here?
no, 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 no. You hate to see it.
So I regretted
Uh,
that one CP.
yeah, it's so tough because he's amazing. He definitely comes a CP dump because you want to do, as you mentioned, you want to do the upgrade to double cast because that's a no brainer. Then you want to make it more reliable because I mean, two's rerolling that feels like really reliable. Then you're like, I've already spent two CP, and then do I buy the? There's another warlord trait that lets you kind of regen CP every time you successfully cast a prayer. You're like,
Yes.
well, if I'm casting twice and auto casting, I kind of want to take that because it's free CP. But then it's three CP on one guy. You're like, oh, it's tough.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think it's definitely. I like that the combo you suggested of take the pistol and then take the ability to reroll the prayers. That feels really good.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
moving on from
It's
him,
finding the CP for it now.
yeah, so tough. Up next, we have a Lord Discordant. And again, just read that for everyone home. He has the Mark of Zinch, which I want to talk to you in a sec because that's super cool. He also has Flames of Spite, which lets him reroll wounds, and on a six unmodified 6 to wound, I think it's a mortal wound. And he has the Gorget of Eternal Hate, which is +1 armor save and a 4-up invuln, and a little explosion when he dies. Can you kind of talk to me about the loadout you chose for him? Because there's a lot of interesting choices there.
Yeah, so initially the plan, I knew I wanted a Lord Discordant in the list because I needed that reach out and kill you character
Yeah.
alongside the Demon Prince. I kind of wanted that sort of 1-2 punch. I love the model as well, which is always
Oh,
very
it's so
helpful.
beautiful.
So I kind of it is an absolute pain to paint because I assembled it and then went, I have a lot of really awkward bits to try and paint here now.
Pro tip for anyone at
So
home:
yeah,
please, for anyone at home, please leave the little rider off before you paint. You will thank both
yes.
of us later. I promise you.
100% do that. Oh my God. So yeah, originally the plan with him was to make him super killy. So it was Flames of Spite. It was the Ulaka the Black, the demon weapon that does mortals
Yeah,
and
yeah,
successful wounds. And just have him as a mortal wound dump. He just goes and he just mortals you off the table. And then I was just looking at it going, it'd be so much better if this guy could not just give, but also take some punches and
yeah.
absorb some of that pressure on him, as opposed to the actual bits that are winning me the game, which is the
Sure,
characters
sure.
doing the secondaries behind the Terminators. So that's when I was like, right, okay, Gorget was the first one. I was like, well, 1+ armor save is fantastic. 4+
Yeah,
invul, I'll take that. It just feels better. It's only 1 in 6 saves that it matters, but it still psychologically feels better.
yeah,
And then just, yeah, it was, again, it's all sort of theory crafting, playing around going, people aren't going to be shooting boulders, well, probably lasguns, but boulders and stuff at
yeah.
them
I mean, you
because
don't
of the 1+
care like
save.
all day. Yeah,
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 yeah. But the las cannons and the melta guns, that's more of a concern. And then just when I was flicking through, I was like, here, Mark of Zinch is pretty good. It is.
yeah,
I've looked at it. I looked at on Legionnaire squads with the icon and chain cannons, thinking, yeah, that'd be really cool. Didn't really think about the whole ignoring a damage thing because they're Legionnaires. You're like, nah, that's not going to come up. And then I was like,
yeah,
hold
yeah,
on, this is really good on a character.
yeah.
So yeah, I thought it's going on. I thought between that and the hexachromatic ward, if I do get touched by something very dangerous, I'm just canceling the first 2 attacks
Yeah.
straight away, which can be quite important. So yeah, he was an absolute baller. Freaking love him. I've After the tournament, I just started writing lists with 3 Lord Discordants in them just to see what I
Yes,
could
love
do.
to see it.
So the various
Yeah,
the various combos you can do, make like 1 killy and 2 super survivable and stuff. So yeah, that's a list I do want to try whenever I can get a
yeah.
minute. So,
No, that makes complete sense. Um, did you ever find yourself using the one CP -1 damage on him because he's a demon engine?
I used it once. He was going into combat with 2 Dread Knights at once. Maybe one, sorry. One, sorry. He killed one with his Bale Flamer, which was hilarious. And then, yeah, charged the other one. And
Yeah,
just in my head, I was like, I don't want to trust my 4+ invul
sure,
because the
sure.
Knights game, he couldn't make a 4+ to save his life in the Knights game. And I was like, I don't want this to happen again. So I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, 1 CP just makes sense. Take him down. And then, yeah, Mark of Zinch and the Gorget and everything else just help keep him trucking, really. So, yeah.
sure. No, that makes complete sense. And then the final, but definitely not least important HQ, Master of Possession. So again, for those at home, his loadout is Mark of Slaanesh, which gives him access to the Slaanesh Feel No Pain power, Delayed Flagnes. And he also has Demonic Whispers, which is every time he casts a power, he has a chance to roll a dice and generate a CP depending on the battle round. How important was the Master of Possession to your list?
He was 15 points every single game because he is just Exalt the Dark Gods. That's all he does.
Yeah.
Because the nice thing about Exalt is you can still cast Psychic Powers.
Yeah.
Even though you're doing the action in the movement phase and it completes the end of the turn, you can still cast Psychic Powers. So you just walk up, do that. Some games he would do Warp Ritual at the same time and just pump out secondary points. Other ones I was like, no, I need the Feel No Pain on the Terminator. So he had to do that. So yeah, he was unbelievable. And Demonic Whispers on him was great because you're doing you're rolling when you do Exalt the Dark Gods and he's casting 2 powers and you're getting 3 rolls at this every turn. So, he was just a wee CP battery for me.
Yeah.
A few people just between forums and Reddit and stuff have asked me why I didn't put that on the Dark Apostle. And the only thought I had was Illusionary Supplication is so critical to how the Terminators function. If anyone has any sniping powers, any snipers, anything that could kill the Dark Apostle, they should be going for him if they get the target priority right. I didn't want to invest that Demonic Whispers on him. So I thought splitting that would be better. And I didn't matter too much. Like I bar a Genestealer called Sanctus, who nearly killed the Mark of the Master of Possession in one go. Apart from that, no one else really touched the characters at any point.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like there's not a ton of sniping these days. And Word Bearers are actually pretty resistant because of the Dark Apostle. He does have like 2 4-up invul and like shield drone kind of guys. And he has a mortal wound shrug if they get like some 6s to wound or whatever. So yeah, I feel it's kind of hard to snipe. So it makes sense that you want Master Possession out there. And of course, the powers you took were, I just didn't say it earlier, it was the regenerate models, of course, because that's like the auto take, especially with the Terminator brick, and the +1 strength and toughness, which T5, I'm guessing you always went for the toughness almost always.
Oh, always.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, T5 -1 to wound, the melted wounded you on 4s. It's a beautiful thing. And the last but not least, you kind of reached deep into the warp, really kind of made the Word Bearers fans happy with this. Some demons tagging along. Kind of talk to me about your choice of the demon patrol there, because you had some interesting choices there.
Yeah, as I said, originally my plan had been just keep it Chaos Space Marines, and I had, I think, 2 units of Warp Talons in the list.
Sure.
Not to kill anything, because I don't think Warp Talons do really kill anything, more just for that run forward early game, raise banners if I needed to, if I wasn't doing Exalt, or just get objectives, put a bit of forward pressure on the opponents. And it's only when I was flicking through, I was going, why am I paying 140 points for Warp Talons when Flamers are cheaper than that?
Yeah.
For 5 of them, they have a shooting attack, which my list sorely lacks, and they are more resilient against shooting. Yeah, why am I not just taking Flamers?
3 pinball, 3 wounds. Still no joke at all.
Unbelievable. They're just so. I mean, yes, you touch them in combat and they do fall over, but great up to that point. And it's although they got nerfed, they're hitting on 3s, and there's normally a Demon Prince standing near them, so they're hitting on 3s with reroll 1s, and you're kind of going, that's not much of a nerf, really. And there's no Armor of Contempt anymore, so their AP -2 actually matters now. So yeah, they were good. They were good, and yeah, so that was the thought process. They were I thought they were better versions of what the Warp Talons would have done on my list anyway.
Sure.
I don't rate Raptors just because no invul save, and
no, Raptors are just
fall over.
Yeah, they're just the eternal disappointments of the Codex. I've never seen Raptors ever do anything besides like raise 1 banner on the side. If anyone has any stories of a Raptor ever killing a single model in a game, I'd love to hear it because I've never seen it with my own eyes.
All the Night Lords players are rubbing their hands now.
Oh man, So I don't get. So I'm just going to be salty for a second, Mike. I'm sure you know by now, like all the Marines, all their free war gear. Space Wolves for 110 points or 115 points get 4 Meltas in a squad plus power weapons, and our Raptors for the same cost get chainswords and bolt pistols. What is going on? Okay. Moving on, because I'll be here all day complaining if you let me. Let's talk secondaries, because that's one of the most important parts of every list. And Word Bearers have some interesting secondary options that other legions don't. So what kind of talk to me your thought process about secondaries?
Yeah, I think I I knew Exalted Dark Gods would be a very strong consideration every single
Sure,
game.
sure.
Of the 5 games, 3 of them had an objective slap bang in the middle of the battlefield
Mhm.
anyway, so I was going to be there. So it was on the second day where the objectives weren't in the middle. I had to sort of maneuver the Terminators and sort of touch objectives and string out to do that sort of thing. So Exalt's just a fantastic secondary. I mean,
So I
you
am
do it
curious
forward. Yeah,
because
go for it.
yeah, when I've played Word Bears, I agree with you. The central objective missions, like the Skyrim or whatever, you're taking Exalted Dark Gods. You're just penciling it in, moving on. But there's some missions where they don't have a central objective. I find like it's either a good mission for Exalt or it's a good mission for banners. Did you ever find yourself taking banners instead? Or were you just like pencil in, I'm gonna dominate that midfield, hell or high water?
Yeah, that Dallas Grey Salvage was the one where I thought I should
Mm,
probably take
yeah.
banners, not Exalt. No, in the end, I took Exalt anyway because I was like, I still want to dominate the middle of the
Yeah,
field,
yeah.
regardless of what I do. I want that center point. If someone wants to put something within 6 inches to try and deny it, those Terminators are very thankful for the additional movement you've just
Yeah.
given them. Thanks for that. And
Yeah.
yeah, Dallas Grey was probably the one where I was like, yeah, that was the one banners probably could have taken, but I got the 15 on Exalt anyway, and it
Sure,
so
sure.
it worked out okay. So
Fantastic.
yeah,
Plus, I guess
so
as a word bearer,
I'd say
you just love exalting the dark gods. It's just what you want to do, Mike.
I
You
do.
want
Yes.
you want to praise Lorgar, praise the dark gods, and I respect that. Okay.
Yes.
So the combo everyone always talks about is taking that and then taking Warp Ritual because you want to be in the center of the battlefield. Were you always taking Warp Ritual too?
I think I took Warp Ritual. Trying to think, probably at least 4 of the games I took Warp
Okay.
Ritual.
Okay.
It was the Demon Prince, the Chaos Demon Prince of Tzeentch, was the one who was pretty much always doing Warp Ritual again because I wanted the 5+ Philippine Termies, so I couldn't sacrifice the Master Possessions to do that.
Yeah.
Unless I got later in the game and most of the threats were out of the way, and then he could just stand there and do it quite happily. So yeah, it's mainly the Prince doing
Okay.
that. So
That
yeah,
makes
Warp
sense.
Ritual that, and I hilariously in one game took the terrible Chaos Space Marine secondary. What was it called? What's the one where you have to kill characters in melee with your
Oh,
characters?
Rise to Glory.
Like,
Yes, because I've taken that one with
yes,
Abaddon Black Legion lists. You took it with Word Bearers. Okay. Very spicy, Mike. Very spicy.
I took it against Grey Knights because they had like 2, 3 characters and loads of Dread Knights, and I was like, hold on, I get this
Yeah.
against monsters as well in melee with my melee focused army. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought why not? Cool. Twat a few Dread Knights over the face and get points for it.
Yeah, especially with how you play your characters. It sounds like you love the aggression. You love pushing your
Yeah.
smash pieces up the field. So that definitely makes some sense there. But I guess kind of the issue a lot of cast Space Marine players struggle with, especially less experienced ones, is say a list like yours. You've got 2 secondaries penciled in. You've got Exalt or Banners maybe. And you've probably got Ritual most games. It sounds like, but that third secondary is always kind of painful. What were you using to fill that gap for that third secondary when you weren't taking the killing stuff with characters one?
Yeah, which I can never see myself taking that secondary ever again. To
Okay,
be
I didn't
honest,
want to
so
say that, Mike. I wasn't going to tell you how to play your game. I was going to be very shocked if you leaned on that one often.
no, I maxed it in that one game, but that's just because
Okay,
that's the way his army worked well enough for me to do that.
yeah,
For the most part, you're pretty much reliant on can you do enough with no prisoners? Can you do enough with assassinate?
yeah.
Can you do enough with bring it down? Really, it's kind of dependent on the opponent's list. It's
Okay,
fortunate enough, pretty much everyone I played against, bar the Grey Knights, no prisoners was a good choice
yeah,
because it was like Horde GSE, Horde Guard, demons with loads and loads of flamers and screamers, and no prisoners is kind of just like no brainer in those sort of games. I
okay,
have to say, if it was something like Custodes, which are very, very difficult to choose secondaries against, I
yeah,
probably would have struggled a little bit for the third. I probably would have had to, in my game plan, say, choose a very suboptimal option, just allow I'll maybe score a 6 to a 9 in it. And then
yeah,
that adjusts what I do for the primary and adjusts what I do separately from that. So yeah.
yeah. That makes sense. In terms of the cast Space Marine ones, I guess you probably never take there's one that have like a version of retrieve data in different quarters, which you're never taking as word bearers because you've got a way better
No.
action secondary. Um, there's also the Long War, which for those that don't know is basically rewards you points for killing units on objectives or flipping objectives to a cap of 4 VP per round, which was a slight nerf or slight buff, excuse me, from Nephilim when it was capped to 3 per round. Were you ever considering the Long War?
Yes, consider most games, and just didn't take it because I tended to have a third option, which was better. To
Okay,
be fair,
that makes
there's a couple of
sense.
games where I was looking at it thinking I could score well on it, but it was always a game where I'm like, I just need, because I have very little obsec in my list.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of going. It just takes one guy standing on that objective, and I score nothing. So that was, I mean, against the likes of the GSC and the guard. There's no point trying to take it because literally just one guy surviving, which is quite likely to be fair, because they're
It
big
happens.
squads.
Yeah,
Just undoes your whole secondary. So
yeah.
yeah,
That's a little unfortunate. Okay. Were you ever finding yourself, because one of the issues with that whole word bearers game plan, which when I've been, kind of thinking about testing lists, is great. You start with Exalt, and then you probably want to take Ritual. But I feel like a lot of armies these days have like a random deny or a random like 4-up deny stratagem or some sort of jank against Psychic. And then you kind of find yourself taking two secondaries that you're like kind of questionable about. But I guess that's just kind of the cast Space Marines life, you know? There's really like people will ask me like
yeah.
in Discord or like comments or whatever on articles, and be like, "Hey, Mike, like, what's kind of the secret to picking cast Space Marine secondaries?" And I'm like, "There's no secret. Like, I'm not hiding anything from you. There's no like easy answer for three secondaries every game. You're just gonna have to go find them and kill them. I want to know what to tell you, brother or sister, or anyone
Yeah.
that wants to play. I mean, it's a long war, but we have to fight it.
Well,
Okay,
thankfully, I have to say, in the two, at least twice, I got to use the stratagem word bearers have, which is you fail to cast a power, and then you get to use a CP and go,
oh,
yeah,
that's
okay, it's
really
cast
good.
it, and you can't deny. But it's
Yeah,
like warp charge 4 or 5 for warp rift, so I literally had to roll really low, and
yeah,
it just came up. I was like, I have a CP to get to secondary points. Yes.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah. Um, have you ever considered the tech, which I really like in word bearers? If you put something like, which I guess that doesn't really work in your list, but you have like one like HQ that goes and does a ritual and then someone else warp times them back because you can make sure the warp time is unfailable in word bearers. Have you ever kind of considered that play, or does it just not work with the HQs you like to run?
Uh, I, I did have warp time on the Nurgle Demon Prince for a bit when I
Yeah,
was playing around with the list. I was just like, how often am I really going to want warp time? Yes,
sure,
I
sure.
could do that. Don't get me wrong, but then I'm burning my CP to do something which I could just go and stand there and do anyway with the Terminator standing in front of me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of just felt a little bit redundant. And then I was kind of well, I'll take prescience, knowing he wasn't really going to cast it very much
Always a great
anyway. So
power. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No,
yeah.
that makes complete sense. Um, one of the other questions a lot of players struggle when they kind of conceptualize Chaos Space Marines these days is they say the game's gotten so killy it's kind of hard to run the big brick because Chaos Space Marines like to take this one big brick, buff it up, and just kind of shove it at them and just say, "Deal with this. I'm gonna control this area of the board." And there's some armies that like Votann, guard, um, that make it difficult to just be like, my game plan is going to be there and just tank damage. Kind of what would you say to people about that? Like, is that true in your experience, or are you finding ways to play around that?
I think it depends what format you're playing. We were playing WTC terrain
Yeah,
format, which is it's very heavy on L-shaped ruins, which
yeah,
naturally obviously benefits an infantry heavy army. It just does. That's the
sure,
way it is. So I think on probably the more GW based, sort of the large 4 pieces of terrain and a bit of a killing field in the middle of the board.
yeah.
That's probably not as that. Sorry to any Americans who are listening in, because I
No,
know that's the format you
I'm a
guys play.
huge
You
fan
know,
of
so
WTC terrain. I definitely wish it was more popular here too, because it seems like a really, really interesting way to play the game. But yeah,
yeah,
it
listen,
is what it
it
is.
has its negatives, in that it almost does punish shooting armies a little bit too heavily, and
Sure.
it can be difficult. Like Votann, still, if they get a beat on you, you're probably going to die.
Yeah,
But yeah, you can sort of maneuver around them a bit easier than just having an expanse sort of in the middle of the board. We don't play player place terrain or anything like that. It's like a standard map setup that WTC
yeah,
have
yeah,
for singles, which is table 6. Just I think player place terrain as well. You can manipulate the battlefield to give you that staging point. The key to the Terminators is have a staging point in the middle of the battlefield, just
yeah,
somewhere where you can move up turn 1, be relatively protected, relatively sheltered to go on and do your turn 1's boring. Your turn 1 is just you moving and then maybe casting a powers. And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of it. That's your turn 1. You have no long range firepower. You're not doing teleporting or anything like that.
Sure,
So
sure.
just accept that. But you need to have that terrain in the middle of the board for you to do that. If you don't have that, then your game plan is I don't know. I don't know if it works.
Yeah,
as well, to be fair. So yeah,
yeah,
I definitely leverage the fact that I've played on WTC terrain for quite a few years now. I know the layout. So
yeah. Well, I mean that's a credit to you as a player because a lot of people kind of don't realize the impact that terrain has on your list. You know, if you're not considering the terrain in your list, I think you're making a huge mistake. Um,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, that makes complete sense. I did have a few actually reader submitted questions from our Discord, if you don't mind me kind of tossing these your way. Let's see here.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, because I gotta say, I mean, definitely there's a lot of, I guess, a lot of almost like sadness in the cast Space Marines community after the data slate took away AOC. Um, Guard came out a lot of seemingly negative things for cast Space Marines. So you were actually one of the very first ones, I think, to win an event, maybe the very first one to win an event with cast Space Marines in the kind of this new Arcs of Omen world. Um, so
Yeah.
people were really excited. I gotta say, huge credit to you, Mike. So thanks for continuing to wage the long war and give people some optimism about the army, as I've been trying to do for years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Let's see a few questions. Let's see here. This question was from Jaden, our Discord. This amazing person. Love to see them around. Um, Talk to me about the lack of shooting in the list, which it sounds like for WTC you don't really care that you don't have guns. I mean, no disrespect to the Terminator bolters, but like real guns. Have you considered instead of demons, like war dogs or anything like that?
Not in this list, no. I have written it into the triple discordant list that I was looking at. Has War Dog Executioners standing in it, but in this list here, I've played very melee focused armies for quite a while now. Mainly with the Nids, I played GSC before they were a shooting army, back when they
Yeah,
used to be a melee army. I played GSC, I played Demons, which was very melee focused. So I don't know. I don't tend to play shooting armies much. You need the shooting to clear the screens and the chaff, which is why you want the Terminators there,
yeah,
and the Flamers. Don't get me wrong, Flamers are great at that. But no, the shooting phase for me is about clearing the chaff to get into what you want to get to, which is the
yeah,
melee. Because too many players don't see melee. They just see melee as killing stuff. They don't see melee as your second movement phase,
yeah,
which is like the most important skill. I think I talk to the kind of newer players, and like you see them and they base up when they charge, and you're kind of like you've just cost yourself like 6 inches of movement
yeah,
just because you've gone base to base with something. Literally just go and just move within half an inch, and then you have 6 inches of free movement to do what you want to do and put pressure on your opponent. So that's the sort of list I like to play. The fact that word bearers do kill stuff in combat quicker than most
that they
chaos
do.
space marines is
They
nice.
definitely do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, that it's more of a choice from my point of view. I
yeah,
have to say, the flamers were great having something fairly reliable in the shooting phase,
yeah, yeah.
but rarely did they shoot anything of importance. It was always kill the chaff to let a Lord Discordant or let a possessed squad through to what I wanted to actually do.
Yeah. Interesting. Because I noticed on the Demon Prince you had two powers. You had the targeted bolt power, which is just a great mortal wound power. You also had infernal flickering flames or infernal flames, basically +1 wound from the flamers. Did you regret not having something like the gateway, the exploding power instead, if you weren't really shooting the flamers much?
Not really, because even Bolt is very incidental when it gets. He has no
Yeah.
bonus. He has no bonuses to cast in the list. So you're
Yeah. You're just
down to the
hoping to
deck
spike a
squads
seven.
really.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You throw Bolt out first and foremost to try and tempt to deny, especially if you can get a good target for
Yeah.
Bolt. You don't want Bolt to go off because maybe do 3 mortal wounds on average. That'll be about it. What you want is to draw the deny out, because the other powers, likes of the Infernal Flames and what the Master of Possessions is going to do, that's the stuff you actually want to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nearly always, Bolt of Change was always like the first power I threw out, and it was like, oh, I can see your character there, and you're just trying to get them to use the 1 or 2 denies
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have, because you're like, hold
Makes
on,
complete
I could do
sense.
9 mortal wounds here potentially, and yeah, it just
Yeah.
kind of
Exactly. Yeah.
gets it moving.
Yeah. No, definitely people always kind of get kind of shaky and get scared when those damage powers come out. So that's really smart
Yes.
use there. Have you looked into Plague Marines at all in Word Bearers? Because I keep thinking about that. So they don't get the Legion trait and don't get the Mortal Wound Shrug, which is both bad for them. But they're really durable, especially with that like no rerolls in melee icon. Um, they take buffs really well. I don't know, and they seem really points efficient because the Terminators they're amazing. 420 points the Plague Marines for like 200 points with the mark or 205. I don't. I keep going back and forth on that. Have you kind of thought about them, or even Rubric Marines too? Another really great cult marine in Word Bearers.
Oh, sorry, Mike, I lost the second half of that
Oh,
sentence. What was that?
okay,
Sorry.
no worries. I was saying, have you also considered Rubric Marines? Because they can still take any powers. They can take like Warp Time or Prescience. Can give themselves a 4-up invuln, get the D6 plus 2 shots. I've been looking at them a lot in Word Bearers too. Have you kind
Nah,
of given just tough doesn't fit with your game plan?
not with the rubrics. No, I've never been massively impressed by them. Even the big scary. I've got 10 warp flamers in your face squads. I
Yeah.
find don't tend to do too much. Still only strength 4. Yeah, barbecue a few guardsmen and get on with your day. And then they're dead if you touch them in combat. So
Yeah.
Plague Marines I have thought about. 'Cause as I say, I played Death Guard when the Codex
Yeah.
first came out competitively. I have plenty of Plague Marines about. It's just again it's their lack of speed. Yeah, they can get in a Rhino, but then you're having to pay points for the Rhino, and then all of a sudden that gap between the Plague Marines and the Terminators is narrowing very quickly.
Yes.
Or you're walking up the field and then you're kind of going, I'm no faster than the Terminators. I don't have an invul save. I'm probably going to be toughness 5 anyway with the Terminators because of mutated
Yeah.
invigoration. I can't get the feel no pain on the Plague Marines as easy because they're not
Yeah.
Slanesh. And it's just when you start layering
And
all
you
of the
can't
buffs
advance
up
and
on the
charge either,
Terminators, it's
which is
better.
one of the big things that
Yes,
solves Terminator slowness, which is a big issue there. Yeah.
that is it. Yes.
Yeah. I
Not
think
to say that they're a bad choice. I have to say that
sure, sure.
I think they do have a place. I think in my Black Legion list, I did toy
Yes.
with them
Black
back
Legion.
and forward a little
Absolutely.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They love those Abaddon rerolls that they're really
Yes,
juicy
they do.
for. Yeah. Yeah. I also think they're really cool in Iron Warriors. We can stack the 2 sources of -1 damage and also give them the because they have a mortal wound feel no pain stratagem, which is
Yes.
ironic because in Word Bearers they don't get the Legion traits. They have no access to a feel no pain, whereas in Iron
Yes.
Warriors they ironically do, but it's okay. I don't rate the codex. I can't complain.
Yes, it is. I have to say now, with the World Eater Codex out, I'm looking at Corn Berserkers. I'm thinking, yeah, okay,
Okay.
I think you still have to buy them a mark of Corn, if I'm right in saying that, when you take them as Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get the icon. They're pretty scary, actually, when you start looking at them and what they could do, just as that little explosive counter punch in a
Yeah.
Rhino. So yeah, I've started toying with Berserkers a little bit to see what I can do
That's
with
fair.
them. So
And they still get their blood surge. So when they're shot, they still get the
yes,
movement, which is really cool. Another trick
yeah.
which an experienced player like yourself can use very well.
Oh, please
Um,
Overwatch me.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would love to roll 3d6 charge. Make my day. Okay. The last question that's kind of been on my mind is Legionaries, where that was kind of the big thing we got was the free war gear on Legionaries, which we didn't really get points drops. We got points nerfs in a lot of spots, which no offense to like Rhino, Combi Melters, whatever. No real points drops. But Legionaries, the free war gear, I keep going back and forth on them because they still kind of aren't very good, but now they're also very cheap. What's kind of your thought on Legionaries? Because I know in your list you have none at all. Do you think there's a Legionary list out there?
Oh, there is. There's 100%.
Yeah.
I think Iron Warriors can definitely lean into them.
Yeah.
And like I'm thinking sort of Market Siege, chain cannons or auto cannons. The auto cannons with the Market Siege is pretty good. Although you probably get to a point where you say, we're better just taking Havocs. Granted, they can't have the
Yeah.
icon, but that's about it. The problem
Yeah.
I always have with that is I'm looking at them going, yeah, you could tool them up, but Noise Marines just do it better in like
Yeah.
in every bit. So
Yeah. Makes just quick sec. Sorry, just adjusting the lighting here
All right.
a bit. Yeah. No, and Bruce Schumer's definitely kind of the big question of always why not just more noise marines?
Why not more Noise Marines? Yeah, it's so hard when you look at them. You're just like they shoot better and they fight better, and they've
Yeah.
got Mark of Slanesh built in. You're kind of like,
Yeah.
why are they take Legionnaires now?
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think Iron Warriors can lean into them. Black Legion could probably lean into them with the +1 to hit if you're
Yeah,
shooting
that's very good.
closest.
Yeah. And
And you
turn off
natural
yeah.
rerolls. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
No.
can do it, but it kind of feels like you're just making a suboptimal choice just for the sake of using Legionnaires.
Yeah. I don't disagree at all. I've been looking at lists with like Red Corsairs or Creations of Bile because they can both advance and charge them.
Mhm.
Just Legionnaires and Rhinos. And I'm just like, it feels good. It feels like it plays the mission well, but then it just doesn't kill anything. Whereas your list, what if it does one
I
thing
agree
well
with you
is,
on the
is it kills people.
creations.
Yeah, because they have the
Yeah, it
advance
does.
and
Does
charge stratagem.
creations not a bad shout? Yeah,
Still
yeah. I can
4
see it in
death.
creations, and
Still tough to trade with.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, not bad. Red Corsairs, the thing that just puts me off is their secondary is just so convoluted.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
it
like
just I don't
you're
know.
you're never taking it. I mean, it's cute, but like
No.
the whole you have to like go to the objective, then you have to like come back. Whereas I don't know about
Yeah.
you, how the way you play. I don't have a lot of stuff left at the end of the game. I'm not hiding my deployment zone. I have like
No.
nothing left because I've been trying to fight them all game. Um, yeah, I don't really know what they were thinking there. I'm a little confused. Have you seen the Iron
I
Warriors?
think someone had
You're
a
going
someone had a good
massively.
idea. That was it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, what was that, Mike?
I was just saying, someone in GW thought this would be a really cool narrative secondary. It really
Yeah.
represents them raiding and reaving without
Yeah.
thinking about how the game actually plays.
Yeah. It's like a great Crusader role or something, but unfortunately, I don't know why it's a match play. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Well, Mike, that's about all I had for me. I guess one final question I want to ask,
Yep.
where if you can kind of talk about what you think are the worst matchups for your list and cast Space Marines in general, and how you'd approach them.
Um, Yeah, Votan's definitely one which would
Yeah.
I would consider because it just that there's no point bringing the Black Rodent because they ain't rolling the wound anyway, and
Oh,
it's real quality firepower.
yeah.
Yes, they're only hitting you on fours, but it's quality firepower and a
Yeah.
lot of it with grudge tokens. So Votan, I think, would cause a problem. I think I dodged somehow managed to dodge the Iron Hands players as well. They were all floating around the top tables, and I just end up not getting paired into them effectively.
Nice.
But yeah, again, Iron Hands is tough. I think any
Oh, the
vehicle
shooting ranges.
heavy, yeah, but I
Yeah.
think it's just any vehicle heavy
Yeah.
list. My army kind of struggles to kill it
Yeah.
because Lord Discordant will kill stuff. Don't get me wrong, with obviously the plus one damage and all his rerolls, he's rerolling hits and he's rerolling wounds, he's doing mortals. The Demon Prince will kill vehicles. Termies, I don't know. They don't kill vehicles that quickly. You're only damage two, and
Yeah.
at
A
some
lot of
point,
vehicles have -1 damage or can get -1 damage, like guard tanks.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. So outside that, killing vehicles is a bit of a problem. I mean, my draw was against Imperial Knights. Unfortunately, my Lord Discordant, who should be the absolute MVP in that game, just whiffed every one of his saves. Just every single one didn't make a single save and fell over in one combat phase, unfortunately. But yeah, outside of the Lord Discordant, really don't kill vehicles. So yeah,
Yeah.
those I
Yeah.
think I was lucky again. No, the guard list I played against was like
Yeah.
300 infantry or whatever it was. There was no Lehman Russes. Lehman Russes would be a challenge. They don't kill me that quickly because they're
Yeah.
not great at the Terminators, but I just don't touch them. I literally,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how I kill them, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I've been on that exact kind of thought path before, where I'm like, if you do the math on guard tanks into like Terminators with illusory supplication and the feel no pain, especially the feel no pain to break the 3 damage, you're like,
yeah.
you actually kind of tank them, but then you have to tank them for 5 turns because they're not going anywhere.
Yes.
It's just like,
Yes, you do.
I don't know if I want to do that. But again, it's all about knowing your terrain set. Whereas
Yeah.
WTC terrain, you could play angles very well to move while moving up the board. Whereas I do think other terrain sets, especially some of those player place terrains, where the guard player will
Yeah.
literally just take their side of the board, put all the terrain on their back line, and be like,
Yep.
"We literally have no terrain for half the board."
Yes.
Then they're going to place a piece on the midfield to kind of block you placing terrain, and you're just like, "Guess I just get shot for 5 turns. This is
Yep.
fun, fair and balanced."
That's the painful bit. It is. It's the unfortunate bit of
Yeah.
playing a melee army, but you take the rough with the smooth.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, final thing, Mike, do you have any upcoming events or anything people can look forward to seeing your next Cast Space Marine list at?
No, well, fortunately, Northern Ireland, for such a small country, we do have a lot of tournaments about
Yeah.
the place, but they are selling out ferociously quickly. Like the one at the end of this month sold out within like 18 hours of it going live, so I totally missed it. So
Oh
I
man.
think there's one in March. It's a one. Most of them are one dayers, to be fair,
Sure, sure.
RTTs. So yeah, it'd probably be that. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what date in March it is. It's mid March sometime. And then there is a Teams event in April, I believe, which I might don't know if I'll take Chaos Space Marines. I might have to take Demons just from
Sure.
a Teams point of view. Demons, there's such a good skew list that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
take them with teams. Yeah, I have to.
Yeah.
I have to. I don't know, Chaos Space Marines in a team setting, it's difficult to see what they lean into. That's why I've been kind
It
of
is a
playing
bit
around
tough.
with like the Lord Discordant Demon Engine heavy list with the Chaos Knights. If no one else is taking Chaos Knights in the team, because I think there's something there that's aggressive and punchy enough, but also quite resilient. And I think if you can find the right
Yeah.
matchups for it, it could score quite well. So I want to try that out. And yeah, I probably will be trying Emperor's Children soon. I have about 7 unassembled Blastmasters sitting upstairs on the hobby table. So I'll be
That's good.
trying them out.
Yeah,
I would have the Terminators, so I
sure,
may as well
sure.
take them
I mean,
out.
if you're talking about a list that wants to kill tanks, those Blastmasters, those will
Yes.
clear up some tanks from 4 to 8 inches away, or especially
Well,
24 inches away.
they better do, or else they're dead next turn. So that's kind of the problem. If they don't kill the tank, that tank is lifting that Noise Marine squad.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of noticed when playing Emperor's Children versus Guard. You definitely can win, but you also can't afford just whiff on a turn. Like if you're a
You
dice,
can't.
are just like you have to kill 3 tanks this turn, or you have to kill all 3 tanks that can angle, and then you just whiff. You only kill 1 of the 3. You're like losing a lot of Noise Marines this turn. A lot of
Yes,
Noise
you
Marines.
need Eternal
Yeah,
Vendetta. You need your Demon Prince to be standing in the middle of them
yeah,
all
yeah.
for rerolls. Yeah, you just need it.
Yeah, make some auto sixes on hits or wounds. But yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Mike, I just want to thank you so much for joining us here today, Warhammer. As mentioned
no
earlier,
problem.
a lot of people are kind of down on Chaos Space Marines and Arcs of Omen. I think there's some truth there, but there's also still a lot of amazing plays possible. So thank you so much for showing that to everyone. And really excited. I'll definitely be checking tournaments in Northern Ireland and seeing what other great results you can put up. Really excited to see what else you do over the rest of the year, Mike.
Yeah, no bother. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on. I will be. I finally have got onto Instagram after years of resisting it. So I started a bit of Instagramming, and we'll be putting up various reels. And it's like some of the stuff I'm talking about, like using your melee as a
Yeah,
second movement phase, all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to be posting that up. It's mainly for the guys in Northern Ireland, to be fair, and try and help them. But yeah, if anyone else wants to join in and start following, I'll be
awesome.
sticking that sort of stuff up.
Yeah, we'll be
So
dropping a link below if you want to check out Mike's Instagram and kind of follow his 40K journey and learn how one of the best cast Space Marine players out there does it.